It's a little past midnight in the middle of February. It's 9 degrees outside. I'm standing in my living room in my socks, and the wall behind me is 78 degrees. Warm to the touch, like a stone that's been sitting in the sun. My furnace has not turned on since 3 o'clock this afternoon. It's not going to turn on tonight. That wall is going to heat this room until almost sunrise, and it didn't burn a thing to do it. No gas, no oil, no electricity, no pellets. It just sat there all day and drank the winter sun, and now it's giving it back. I built it for about $120. The first patent on this idea was filed in 1881. By 1955, it had vanished from American homes so completely that your own contractor has probably never heard of it. And that's not an accident. After the hot water video went up, the question I got more than any other was this one. Gary, that's great for summer cooling and hot water, but what about heat? What about January? So let me show you the other half, because the same sun that's hitting your roof is also hitting the south side of your house every winter day, and right now it's bouncing straight back off the siding and doing absolutely nothing. I'm going to show you how to catch it. Here's the number that should bother you. Heating is not a part of your energy bill. Heating is your energy bill. The Department of Energy's own figures put space heating at around 42% of the total energy a typical home uses, more than your water heater, your AC, your fridge, your lights, and everything else combined. And just like that water heater, your furnace doesn't care whether anyone's home. It runs at 3 in the morning when you're asleep under 3 blankets. It runs all day in an empty house so the pipes don't freeze. You are burning fuel around the clock to replace heat that's leaking out through walls that face the one direction the sun comes from. The sun is delivering free heat to the south side of your house every clear day of the coldest months, and your house is built to ignore it completely. Now here's the physics, and it's the simplest thing in the world once somebody actually says it out loud. Some materials hold heat. A lot of it. Concrete, brick, stone, and especially water. They're what engineers call thermal mass. You can pour energy into them slowly all day, and they barely change temperature, and then they let it back out slowly for hours after the source is gone. Water is the champion. A single gallon holds more heat than a brick 4 times its size. That's why a lake is still warm in September after the air's gone cold. Now take a wall of that mass. Paint it dark so it absorbs sunlight instead of reflecting it, and put a sheet of glass a few inches in front of it. Sunlight passes through the glass, hits the dark mass, turns to heat, and the glass won't let that heat radiate back out. The wall gets warm, then warmer. By afternoon, it's holding 120, 130 degrees. And here's the magic part. Dense mass has a time lag. It takes 6 to 8 hours for the heat to soak all the way through and start radiating off the backside into your room. So the wall finishes charging at sunset, exactly when you need it, and releases that heat slowly through the entire evening and deep into the night. The sun sets at 5. The wall keeps the room warm till 1 in the morning. It is a battery you charge with daylight and discharge after dark, and it has no wires, no chemicals, and nothing that moves. The man who first crated this up and sold it wasn't some fringe tinkerer. In 1881, a full decade before Clarence Kemp patented the solar water heater I showed you last time, an American scientist named Edward Morse received U.S. patent number 246,626 for a solar heating wall. Dark absorbing surface, glass over it, vents top and bottom to let warm air circulate into the room. Same idea I just described, filed before the light bulb was in most homes. It worked. It was documented. And then America forgot it, while one country took Morse's idea and ran. In the 1960s, a French engineer named Félix Trombe and an architect named Jacques Michel built whole houses around this wall in the Pyrenees at a place called Odeo, where the winters are brutal and the sun is strong. Those houses are still standing, still measured, still heating themselves off the sun 60 years later. To this day, engineers around the world call it a trombe wall, a French name on an American invention, because France remembered what we threw away. And we did throw it away. After the Second World War, heating oil was practically free, and natural gas was piped to every new house in the country. The forced air furnace became the standard, the only thing a builder knew how to install, and the only thing a bank would write a mortgage around. Passive solar wasn't banned, it just stopped being taught, stopped being drawn, stopped existing in the plans. By the 1950s, an entire generation of builders had been trained in a world where you heat a house by burning something and pushing it through ducts, and a wall that heats itself for free didn't fit on the form. It wasn't that it failed, it's that you can't sell a homeowner a fuel delivery every month for a wall that runs on sunlight. Now, if you rent, or you've already got a house and you figure this is only for people building from scratch, stay with me, because this next part is for you. You do not need to tear down a wall. You do not need a permit in most places because you're not touching the structure. You're building something in front of it, and you can do it for around $100. Here's the simplest version. You find a south-facing wall that gets sun in winter. South is everything here. It has to be south. On the outside of that wall, you stack your mass. The cheap way is black painted concrete pavers or a stacked brick veneer. The better way, if you've got the room, is a row of 55-gallon drums painted flat black and filled with water, because water holds the most heat of anything you can afford. You paint all of it the darkest flat black you can find. Then a few inches out in front of it, you mount glazing, old storm windows, a sheet of twin-wall polycarbonate, anything clear that traps the heat in the gap. Seal the edges so it's a still pocket of air. That's the whole machine. The sun charges the mass through the glass all day. The mass radiates into your wall and your room all evening. If you want it to heat faster, you cut a vent near the top and the bottom of the wall so warm air thermosiphons straight into the room during the day, and you close them at night to let the radiant heat take over. No fan, no pump. Materials, if you scrounge the glass and the drums, right around $100. It'll outlast your furnace by 30 years because there's nothing in it to break. Before I show you what happened at my neighbor Carol's house, the part that honestly got to me a little, everything I've built on this channel is now in one place. The cooling system, the hot water box, this wall, all of it, every parts list and measurement. Links in the description. But stay here, because Carol's story is the reason I make these at all. Now, the honest part, the part nobody selling you anything will tell you. This wall is incredible in cold, sunny winter climates, the Mountain West, the high desert, the plains, anywhere with cold, clear winters and a lot of blue sky days. Colorado, New Mexico, Montana, the Dakotas, Utah, Wyoming. If that's you, this thing is almost unfair. In cloudy winter climates, the Pacific Northwest, the gray stretches of the Northeast, it still helps, but the sun isn't there often enough to lean on it alone, so it becomes a supplement, not a furnace replacement. And there's one more thing you have to respect. In summer, that same wall will cook you if you let it. The fix is an overhang or an awning sized so the high summer sun is shaded off the glass while the low winter sun still pours in. Get that one detail right and the wall ignores July and feeds you all January. Get it wrong and you've built a radiator for the wrong season. I'll show you the overhang math in the full guide. The reason I built mine was my neighbor, Carol. She's 73, lives alone 2 doors down, fixed income, and 3 winters ago she told me she was keeping her thermostat at 61 and wearing a coat indoors because her gas heat was running her almost $280 a month in the deep of winter. Her south wall faced her backyard and got sun all day and did nothing with it. So one weekend we built a water drum tromba wall against it. 8 black drums, a frame, 2 old patio door glass panels her son-in-law had in the garage. Cost us under $150 and a Saturday. That first February, her gas bill came in at $94. She called me before she even opened the rest of her mail. The next winter, she stopped turning the furnace on at all on sunny days. It only kicks in now during a long stretch of clouds. She keeps the house at 70 now. She's not wearing a coat in her own living room anymore. She didn't replace her furnace. It's still there, still hooked up, ready for a gray week. She just mostly doesn't need it, because a wall that anybody could have told her about 100 years ago is doing the work the sun was always willing to do for free. That's the knowledge that's older than this country. 2,400 years ago, Socrates described the ideal house as one that faces south, so the winter sun pours into the rooms and the summer sun passes over the roof. The same overhang trick I just gave you, worked out by a man in a toga. The Romans glazed their south rooms to trap the sun and called them heliocamini, sun furnaces, and they wrote actual laws protecting a household's right to that sunlight because they understood it had value. The ancestral Puebloans built their cliff homes at Mesa Verde tucked into south-facing alcoves so the low winter sun reached the back wall and the high summer sun never did. Every one of them arrived at the same answer with no contact between them because the answer was always sitting there in the sky. The sun is the furnace. The wall is just where you keep the heat. Edward Morse didn't invent it in 1881. He just put it on paper and got it stamped. And then cheap oil and a forced air furnace decided you'd forget it. The plans stopped showing it, the builders stopped drawing it, the banks stopped financing it, and a thing that heated houses for free for thousands of years quietly disappeared from American construction in about a generation. Not because the sun stopped coming up in the South, but because nobody figured out how to put sunlight on a monthly bill. The sun doesn't read building codes. It crosses the southern sky every winter day exactly the way it did when Socrates was alive, and it will keep doing it long after the last furnace anybody ever installed has rusted out and gone cold. They didn't lose this. You were just never told. Now you know. So drop your state in the comments and tell me which way your main wall faces. South is the whole game here. And tell me what your heating bill hits in the worst month of winter. And if your grandparents ever had a sunroom or a south porch that somehow stayed warm into the evening with nothing running, tell me about it, because that and this wall are the same idea wearing a different name. If you believe a thing this simple shouldn't have been allowed to disappear, you already know what to do. Hit subscribe, because next week I'm showing you the stove I built that heats my whole shop on a wheelbarrow of scrap wood the lumberyard throws away, and burns so clean it barely makes smoke, using a design the wood stove industry has spent 40 years pretending doesn't work.